Thanks to Sana Skin Studio for supporting the No podcast. Sana is a skin studio that is shifting the relationship with your skin and your products through goal-driven facials, real guidance, and clean skincare. Stay tuned for our promo code so you can receive $25 off of your first facial at Sana Skin Studio. Welcome to the No podcast with me, Nikki Spo.
What is up, light beams and truth seekers? You are listening to The Know, where it is not about knowing everything, but about coming to know ourselves. I am your hostess, Nikki Spo, and I am so happy you're here. Today, we are hearing from skincare industry leader Allison McNamara, who is the founder of Mara, a clean algae-based skincare line, as well as a digital influencer and former TV host. A lifelong beauty and wellness enthusiast, Allison has always had a passion for beauty and drummed up the idea for Mara on a trip to Istanbul, Turkey, which launched with one hero product, Mara Algae and Moringa Universal Face Oil, which has since expanded with additional product offerings and is sold globally via Cult Beauty, Credo Beauty, and Blue Mercury. Prior to launching Mara, Allison was a digital and linear on-camera host and producer for outlets like Pop Sugar, Refinery 29, ET Online, and ABC. Mara, which is the last four letters of Allison's last name, means sea in Gaelic and pays homage to her family's Irish heritage and the brand's proprietary algae blend, which took 2 years to develop and is sourced off of the coast of Northern Ireland and Brittany, France. Mara has quickly developed a cult following and rapidly launched nationwide in stores and online, most recently with Sephora.com and stores. Allison graduated from USC with a double major and a minor in journalism, political science, and marketing, and currently lives in LA. And today we are going to learn about how she's done it all. Let's get started. Allison, welcome to The Know with Nikki Spo, where it is not about knowing everything, but about coming to know ourselves. I think that a lot of people are really looking for a deep sense of inner knowing in their lives. And I think that a lot of it has to do with what we do in the world, how we view our purpose, and what we're doing with our time and energy. So I'm really excited to speak with you today about how you came to a space where you were able to develop your skincare line, Mara. So thanks for taking the time to be here with me all the way from Los Angeles.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I'm a big fan of Miami, so I'm jealous you're in the warm weather. It is pouring rain today, but I'm excited to talk about Mara.
How's it pouring rain in LA?
I don't know.
Do you guys even know what to do with yourselves right now?
No, I saw this really funny meme of like a guy carrying an umbrella but with flip-flops, and then a girl wearing like rain boots but like a denim jacket, and they're like, who is more prepared for the weather? Neither of them, obviously. We're not prepared, but we need the rain, so it's nice.
Totally, I hear you. Okay, so I want to talk about like this pivotal moment in your life where you went on a trip to Istanbul in 2017 that inspired the concept for Mara, and it's, from what I understand, it's what led to the creation of your clean algae-infused skincare line. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the trip was actually in 2015 because I launched the line in 2018. And I went on this trip with my family. And it was basically like this trip where I hadn't really gotten to travel that much with my last job because I was constantly on camera. I got very little time to myself. And even during holidays, I was there filming. And so once my television show was kind of coming to an end in 2015, I had a little bit more time that I could travel, went on this trip with my family, thought of the idea in Istanbul on the Sea of Marmara. Mara is the last four letters of my last name. It means sea in Gaelic, and I'm an Irish citizen as well as a U.S. citizen, and it translates to Hound of the Sea, my last name.
Love that.
Yeah, it's fun, right? So I took it as this sign to kind of start moving forward in the world of Mara. I took my time, so it took me 3 years from inception to launch, and I'm very grateful that I decided to go on that journey and kind of left my old career behind.
So, but what made you even want to leave that old career behind? Because a lot of people don't even have the courage to do that. They're like, this is safe. I know this. It's familiar.
Well, I was kind of forced to take the risk. I think the universe kind of points you and redirects you when you're ready for a change. And I've been getting casted on all these amazing shows, but a lot of them were only going to pilot or going to one season. And the long show that I've been on for, like, it was 1.5 or 2 years that we had been on the show. It came to an end too. And I took that as kind of like the sign of, wow, like, are things just going to keep going this one season kind of route and I'm going to have to keep hustling, or should I try something else? And so I also still worked for myself when I launched Mara. Obviously, Mara is also working for myself, but I have my other business, McNamara Inc., which does consulting and writing and all sorts of editorial direction. And I kept that up really religiously until 2022. So I've worked, I've been doing a lot for the past like decades. It's been a moment.
So I was a professional dancer, right? Like I grew up my whole life dancing, and I danced for the NBA, and then I went on to tour with artists, predominantly Latinx artists that they'd come to the award shows here in Miami. But like being in the casting world, and like you get a lot of no's, right? Like you go out for these opportunities and you get told no a lot, right? And you kind of have to have this thick skin. And I remember going out to LA and thinking, I was like, I'm going to be a professional dancer in Los Angeles. And let me tell you, I could not hang, right? And that was like, those were like the most no's I had ever gotten in my whole life. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's like when you are thrust into a position in entertainment, especially whether that's modeling or acting or singing or whatever it is, I think that you really have to have some thick skin and know how to ride the waves and be willing to put yourself out there. It takes a lot of courage to continuously put yourself out there over and over and over again, at the risk of being told you're not pretty enough, you're not tall enough, you're not good enough, you're not the look that we're looking for, and you can only resort back to being yourself, right? You're like, well, this is it. And you have to like stomach the uncertainty of it, the unpredictability of it, the negativity of it, the competition atmosphere of it. And so I'm interested, and like, I wasn't even going to ask you this, but I like, it's only just like coming up because of what you were saying, is like, how do you think that those experiences, like all those shows like coming to an end and like stopping or whatever, and you're like really maybe like longing for them to continue or having some sense of stability. That's what I'm hearing from you anyway. How do you think that prepared you to take this next leap into a completely different industry?
Well, what you said is so on point. I think like with my last career is very similar to dancing in a way where when you're a host, you're constantly auditioning and they cannot like you based on your hair color, your height, your size, the sound of your voice, your intonation. So I do think a lot of that was really, really integral to Mara's success because like you said, I got told no so many times in the beginning. And even like towards the end, when everything kept getting canceled, I was getting the yes and then the no, which is almost worse because, you're excited for it. And then it gets pulled from air, doesn't actually air. So I do think that was really important for the creation of Mara because also when you're launching a brand, you're not going to be everything to everyone. And you're not everyone's going to love everything that you make. So you have to be prepared for people to have their own feedback, their own opinions. And if you can't take that, then this is not the business for you. You have to just take it with, a discerning eye and take note of why. If a lot of people aren't liking things, then definitely take note of that. But you can't take the small no's really personally. So I do think that was really important. And then on the retail side, getting into large distribution is really challenging when you have a skincare line or a cosmetic line. And so also be prepared to take the no's or the not right nows at the beginning and just keep working and building because it doesn't happen overnight.
Totally. I mean, I can definitely relate to not being everybody's cup of tea. I host this show independently. Like people don't have to listen to it. You know what I mean? So I don't get a lot of no's in that regard. Like I'm the producer of this, right? It can exist without anybody accepting me or not. But I have plenty of people that are like, well, I don't like it. I'm like, then don't listen to it. Like, that's cool. Like, don't listen to it. But there is a lot that goes into that, and being able to, you mentioned something about like just staying true to yourself and like kind of like trusting the process of where it's going, what you believe in, what your mission is with it. And it sounds like you're very, very clear on your mission, which is interesting. I read that you have this 1% give back.
Yes. 1% for the planet. So it's where we give 1% of our sales to a charity-based organization that gives back to the world.
But are you doing that like because you're supposed to do that, right?
Well, no, I do that because I love the planet and I got into this business because I've always been a bit of like a tree hugger. Like when I was in 5th grade, I went to this weird private school and one day I decided I was just going to empty out all the trash cans and pull out all the recycling materials and take them to the local recycling place. They called me to the principal's office. My mom had to pick me up. I was covered in like literal trash and like your daughter cannot be like dumpster diving at our school.
Oh my gosh, they thought you were dumpster diving.
Yeah. Well, they knew what I was doing.
You were, right? You essentially were.
I was. They were like, you cannot be doing that. So I've always had like a passion for finding better ways of doing things and, making the world a better place. So I figured when I got into beauty, it is one of the most toxic industries in the planet. So I figured if we're going to be doing this, at least just let's make good choices as often as we can throughout the process. Now, I'm not saying that I think it's really strange when beauty brands position their entire existence around sustainability or around being good for the planet, because if you were really being good for the planet, you wouldn't be doing this.
You wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah,
Like the
you wouldn't
brand
be doing
wouldn't
this.
exist.
Yeah, you would use things that are currently being made, because everything that's being made is adding to the noise. But I do think there are ways to make really smart choices along the line. So that's why we do the 1% for the planet give back.
Well, I think it's really important that you even acknowledge that, because I think a lot of people really want to stick to their guns and be like, no, we're really good for the environment. And I think it's really important to have people say like, oh no, we're aware that this isn't good for the environment, to an extent. We're doing our best while also trying to run this business and have, something that exists in the world that I'm passionate about, because like that has to be important too, right?
Totally.
And being able to serve people that have a need and filling a void, filling the need where it exists, because there is a need that exists, but it's a tricky need in that, right? Because the beauty industry is filled with double standards.
Totally.
They're just full of double standards. Like, why do we even need a product for a face? Why shouldn't we be aging gracefully? And who's in charge? Is it the man that's in charge? Like, that's making women feel like we need to be aging a certain way or being taking care of ourselves a certain way? Or is it really the woman saying like, no, this is how I want to look and feel? Like, which one is it? Is it the chicken or the egg? And like, sometimes, Allison, I feel like just saying like, who cares how I've been influenced? This is ultimately, I'm educated enough within myself, like within my own deep sense of inner knowing, that like, if I want to get Botox, I'm going to get Botox. If I'm going to go get a clean facial, I'm going to go get a clean facial. And if I'm going to use like skincare products, that's what I'm going to do.
I love that, because you're right. Who came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm not sure. And I do think society tells us how we should age, and we're supposed to age gracefully as women, and there are all these other things. And then men somehow get to look better as they age, right? Like, oh, he's like got wrinkles, he's got fine lines, he's got experience, he's wise. So it is unfair that we have that double standard. But like, to your point, I'm the same way. It's like, if I'm going to do this, like I've gotten Botox before. I also have a clean skincare line. I also love the planet. I also manufacture things. So it is like this kind of yin and yang in everything.
Well, I love that. I love that you're sharing that. So your father worked in the skincare industry. What influence did that have on you?
So much. I mean, I think when your parents do anything, your parents are your heroes, especially when you're young and impressionable. And I think getting to watch someone in a space that he loved so much really infectious to me in a way when I was younger, because I knew how much he loved working in color cosmetics and skin. And so I think that was big. And then getting to go to really fun core memory moments. Like I remember the first photo shoot I ever got to go on, and I was probably so annoying. Like I raided the craft station, and I definitely harassed the talent, like wanting autographs and stuff. But I had like the best time. And I just remember getting to watch, it was Misha Barton, like recite the lines over and over and over again. Yeah, it was a really long time ago. She was on the OC, and that's when they had hired her for the company that my dad was working at.
Just so you know, like my demographic, we know exactly who Misha Barton is.
Same. So I actually helped them cast her, because she was in this Disney movie called Ring of Endless Light, and it was right before she got casted for the OC. And I was like, you should like look at this woman to be like the face of Neutrogena, and she ended up getting picked for that. And so I remember getting to watch her like recite the lines over and over, and so that was just really integral. And I think that really set into like how I write and how I market products, and just my like understanding of the space. So I'm lucky for that.
That's pretty awesome. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you come out with this one hero product. For anyone who is starting a product-based company, what are some of the benefits of launching with one hero product?
There are so many benefits, especially with hindsight now looking back.
Right.
I launched with this one product, and at the time, the business is self-funded, so we didn't put like a ton of capital into the business at the beginning, or ever, really. And the reason for that is the success of the first product, if it's a killer product, will help feed the next product. And so you don't have to buy the minimum order quantities of a bunch of different SKUs. You just have to buy the minimum order quantities of one SKU. And when you're making a product, especially in the beauty space, so much goes into this. So there's bottles, there's droppers, there's unit cartons, there's stability testing, there's HRIPT testing, there's PET testing. There is the actual formulation, the raw materials that go inside it. Then you've got to get exterior cartons, interior cartons, and then you've got to ship it. So there's so many moving parts. And I think if you are a new entrepreneur that doesn't necessarily have experience in the space that you're in, with one product, you get to kind of like learn with that product. And then the complications start happening when you've got variations of sizes and all of that. So there are so many benefits to launching with one product. But on the downside, you have all your eggs in that one product. So you really have to come out with something that's strong.
Yeah. So your grassroots levels speeding approach to involving industry artists with whom you've had personal relationships, leading to the product reaching celebrities like Chrissy Teigen, Hailey Bieber, and Addison Rae. Like, can you share some more about the importance of these personal connections in building Mara's presence?
I think everyone has their own secret weapon, right? Like I've heard Taylor Swift mention that she wouldn't be here if she wasn't a songwriter, right? Like that's her secret sauce.
Like, Nikki, what is your secret sauce? Like, figure that the fuck out.
Oh my, you've got so much. But I think my secret sauce was that I was working in media for a long time and I had access to really important people or really influential people through my old job. And that coupled with the fact that I wrote every single day for upwards of 9 years, it made me really strong at writing and copywriting and at people I knew. So when I launched the brand, I had no extra finances to invest in PR. So I just said, okay, who do I know? At the time, I was the editorial director of a place called Maine Addicts. I worked for Jen Atkin, who owns Way, and she's also an incredible hairdresser. And so I sent to, and I'd been interviewing and writing about all these major, hair talents. And then my wife is also a celebrity hair colorist. And so really used our network of glam to send to and just sent it out, just like, hey, try my product. And then on the second level, I sent to all of the influencers who had been on my show. So I had everyone from like Ami Song, who was like a massive fashion blogger back.
She's an OG.
She's literally the OG, like the OGest of all of them. So like I had women like that who I was able to send to, who've been so supportive. And I think even celebrities that I had, like smaller celebrities that I'd had on my show, I sent to everyone. And then slowly through word of mouth, they got to these bigger people. And then they were so generous with their real estate and they shared Mara on their platforms. And I'm so grateful for them. So that's kind of how it started. But it didn't like happen overnight. Like I started gifting these people in 2018 and the really big hits like Chrissy Teigen happened in 2020. That was years of me gifting people, different types of people. So it doesn't happen overnight.
I want to like stay on that for a minute because like, I get gifted a lot of things, right? For example, like, and people are like just gifting. And people are just happy to, some people want to do a brand collaboration and some people want to do just gifting just so I can try the product. The fact that you have to like do it for a while and be willing to give your product away for free, and you hear this in a lot of business strategies. You hear business coaches who are doing, who do this with their time. They're like, give out the feedback for free. Just give it away for free and they will come for more, right? So like there's something about that being at play as you give out your free product, right, to different people. And then I want to talk about like connections versus quality. Like you can't just rely on your connections. You actually have to have the quality product because anybody can see through the bullshit.
Yes. I mean, definitely make sure you've got a strong product because especially in 2024, like remember I launched this in 2018, but like in 2024, there is so much stuff. There's so much stuff. There's so much noise. If your product is not good, it is a fleeting, even if they like you, even if they're your best friend, it's fleeting. They're going to go back to the things that work. So make sure that you have a really killer product. And then I think the other question you mentioned was about just like getting it into people's hands, right? When you're gifting, you have to make sure the people that you are gifting, one, you think align with your brand. And it's a very interesting balance because you want to gift wide and you want to gift to the right people, but you don't want to over gift because you don't want to end up in giveaways. And you also don't want to feel like a free brand. Like you want people to get excited, say, Nikki, I'm gifting you. And then I don't gift you for a minute because I just gifted you and I want you to kind of like use it. I want you to run out of it. Like the goal is that like, I want you to miss it. And so the next time that you get sent it, whether it's like a refresh with a new launch or it's just the new launch, we're strategic in how we approach that because we don't want to just be seen as something that people can just always get for free or always get on sale. And so I think that has to be like a very clear, it's a very like tricky, but we want that to be made very clear. So we do gift, but then we won't gift again for quite some time. And then a lot of times people will buy it or they will ask again. It will be, oh, we're not gifting that product right now. So it's kind of like one of those balances I think is very important. And then of course, we love like being showcased on like unboxings or whatever. But what's even more important is that you tell your friends. Like you just telling word of mouth, like to your mom, like, oh, I'm using this killer face oil. Like that is so much more valuable, honestly, than an unboxing on Instagram. As much as we love that too. But people don't really care if you're unboxing it because you can unbox it and then throw it away. We want to know that you like use it.
I think it's really nice that you share that because, when you talk about, you mentioned stuff about like your secret sauce, like I think a lot of people want to hold on to their secrets. And at least on this platform, we're about like sharing the secrets. I want everybody to have access to the information because I think that like, especially women, when we come together, like there's room for all of us at the top. Like, I don't think that we need to hold on and really just like protect our success so vehemently. Like, I think that the more that we share like what's working, what's not working with other people, the more wins we create across the board. And like, I want to bring other people up with me too. So I have a ton of people who are listening to this that are entrepreneurs that are probably asking scratching their heads and being like, what is the gifting strategy? Like, what is the strategy for giving away? Like, how are we going to get people to actually try us and love us? And what is the balance? So I really, Allison, appreciate you sharing that, because not a lot of people are so forthcoming with what works as their secret sauce. And it's really nice and refreshing when other girls are doing it too. You know, when other girls are here to share the wisdom.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break so I can thank our sponsor, Sana Skin Studio, with their OG location in Wynwood and their additional locations in Fort Lauderdale and Coconut Grove. Okay, so the best way I can describe Sana is that it feels like coming home. Unlike traditional facials, Sana's facials are rooted in education, and I love this so much. Every experience I have had at Sana has been a chance for me to learn more about my skin and its needs. I love that the facials are effective while also being accessible enough to be a monthly ritual rather than a yearly splurge. This is why the Sana membership is so great. I'm honored to be able to provide our audience with a promo code. Use the code THENOGLOW for $25 off of your first facial when booking at sanaskinstudio.com, and additional incentives if you book a membership. I have absolutely loved my skin healing journey with Sana Skin Studio.
I do want to talk about, I want to revisit this like clean and sustainable skincare, right? But you do feature like wild harvested algae and skin loving superfoods. But like, it's so tricky, right? Because like what I know of skincare anyway is like, it's also really difficult to sustain those products and keep them safe for long-term use. Like, how do you keep something so fresh and pure and clean and green without adding to it and having it last?
Well, that's a great question. So most of Mara is oil-based, and oil is anhydrous, which is great because bacteria it grows in water. So there's no water in the formula. It makes it a lot harder for things to grow.
Okay, so that's crazy though, because like you look on any skincare product and the first ingredient is almost always water.
Yeah, which is why mine don't have water.
Yeah.
Well, there is, we do have a few products that have water. We've got our volcanic sea clay detox mask is a clay mask, which is a water-based, and our flower acid algae serum. But for the most part, and our new cream actually also has water in it. But for the most part, universal face oil, our cleansing oil, our oil lip balm, like all of those are killer hero products are all oil-based. And that really is the foundation of the brand. I love oils. They're much more expensive to work with, but they're also so great for the skin barrier. And you're right. I mean, water's free, water's cheap. Water, a lot of actives are water-based, which you have to kind of go with the active that you're using, which will kind of determine the base that you have to use. But I love playing in this space. Algae is such an incredible ingredient. There's so many oil-based algae actives. And like you mentioned, they're sustainably harvested. So we harvest them by hand in Ireland and France. Our blend is proprietary, so no one else has access to it. But then we add different types of actives to the formula based on whatever we're trying to achieve. And algae is so interesting because you can actually kind of like lab-grown diamonds. You've heard of those, right?
Yeah, of
so
course.
It's like a diamond that's grown in the lab. It's like it is a diamond, but it's like not harvested from the environment, and it's all the same attributes as a diamond. You can do that with algae as well, which makes it really sustainable because you're not actually hurting the colonies of algae that are out there that are, important to the ecosystem. There are these different types of algae you can actually lab raise, which I think is really fascinating too. So there's just so much technology in the space that makes it really fun to work in.
So you recently launched at Sephora. Like, congratulations for that. Like, that's major. I know I'm friends with the folks over at IGK Hair. And I remember my friend Frank Izquierdo, who's one of the owners and founders of IGK. And I remember when they got into Sephora, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, Mama, we made it. Like, you are doing something. Like, but it's also like, I hear that it is tough. It is tough to not only get into Sephora, but sustain the Sephora market.
Yes.
Congratulations. I'm sure you have your work cut out for you, but being available at Sephora online and in some of their stores, I mean, that is such a significant milestone. Like, how has this expanded reach impacted Mara's growth, and what's next for the brand?
Oh, well, it is so exciting. So thank you. I just have to like pinch myself sometimes to remember that it's real. Like Sephora was definitely the goal and always the dream. And so we've had 1 year at Sephora, which is incredible. They're amazing partners. But like you said, it's not like the hard work is getting in the store, into that store, but then the harder work starts once you're in there because you have to have year over year growth. You have to show that clients are still interested in you. And so that is really challenging. We're just starting our second year. So we're kind of getting that year over year data finally. And it is tough. Like you've got to make sure you're still sampling and investing in your hero SKUs and doing fun creative events to get people talking about your brand and launching things that people want to, shop. So it's definitely challenging, but they are incredible partners to work with.
Like, so you mentioned like having events and everything. Like, how does that go into play? Like your grassroots marketing?
Well, we have annual budget plan meetings. We just had one actually with Sephora where we really kind of dig into what we're supposed to be spending based on the tentative sales for the year and then how it's broken down by SKU, by core. And this year we really invested in Sea Dream, which is our launch that we just had. It's our brand new face cream that launched with Sephora. And so we did a number of smaller influencer events, and then we're doing one large scale event. And then we also invest in things like out of home marketing, so things like billboards, and then traditional kind of sampling sachets, which are quite expensive, but can be lucrative for the actual sell through.
I'm not going to share like which brand it is, but I have like a sample something or other, right?
It's a big one.
I know it's big. And I'm like, man, I save these for like when I'm traveling.
At least you save them. A lot of people throw them out.
But they throw them out, right? So I'm like, I keep this in my little travel stash. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going on like a 2-day trip to New York where I would like, let's call it shampoo. Like, I honestly don't even know what this one is right now, but like, let's call it shampoo. And I'm like, I'm going to, on a 2-day trip to New York or whatever. And I'd rather not have to use the hotel shampoo. Like I have this quality thing that I can try. But I agree, like it must be super expensive to produce these. And half the people, it's like wedding invitations or party invitations. They go in the trash.
Yeah.
So why do you do it? Like what's the purpose?
I did paperless posts for my wedding, FYI, because of that, because I felt like they were super wasteful. But you're right. And, sampling is really, it's expensive. It is unknown in a way because we do know that sampling at a Sephora does work, but we don't know how long it's going to take to see the results or the return on ads, the return on spend for that. And then you also risk the fact that I throw out a lot of stuff and I'm like a sustainable queen and I still throw out like a lot of sample pack ads. I take them and then I'm like, eh. So it's definitely like tough. Like one of our retailers, our largest retailer besides Sephora would be Credo, which is a clean beauty store. There aren't any brick and mortars in Florida or Miami, but hopefully soon. And it's an amazing clean store. But we used to sample with them and then they stopped sampling because it's so toxic for the environment. But at the end of the day, the big argument against that is, well, is it less sustainable to sample or is it less sustainable for someone to buy a product full size and only use it once because they hate it?
I literally just did that. I bought a full size product and I'm like, can't use it.
I see both sides. So or buy and return, which is really bad for the brand. But sampling is really incredible. It's a great way to reach new customers, especially for a small brand where they may have seen us on Hailey Bieber's YouTube video, but have no experience otherwise. And they get us as a sample in a Sephora box for something else they ordered, and that can really help. And they're like, "Oh, Mara, I saw that years ago. I forget where." So I do think it can be really beneficial.
How did you get Hailey Bieber?
Oh my God. So my wife did do her hair for quite some time, but I think she discovered our product through this one TikToker named JC Dabrowski. He is amazing. He's like this college student. I think he may have just graduated, who went to Cornell, but also was like really into marine science. And he loved marine-based skincare lines. And he would always post about Mara. And I think that's how she told me that she discovered him. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Or Devin discovered Mara. So she discovered Mara.
Right.
Yeah. That was, really crazy, like insane actually. And her skin, all of the women who've posted about Mara, I feel like so blessed that they posted about it, and they have beautiful skin. Like you couldn't ask for better billboards. Like Chrissy Teigen, gorgeous. Hailey Bieber, gorgeous. Addison Rae, gorgeous. Like so grateful for all of them. So
that's awesome. How have you had to pivot when challenges have presented themselves?
Pivoting is hard. Like I think you just kind of have to one, you can't be too set in your ways to not see the issues, right? So that's a big thing that I think you learn as you get older too. I love this lip balm that we have, and I love that it's in this aluminum tube because aluminum is endlessly recyclable. It's It's one of the few things that we can just keep recycling over and over and over again. Fifth grader Allison knew that. That's why I was dumpster diving. And that's why I still love using that for our packaging. But unfortunately, it's just not a component that works well with the product. So this year I'm changing it because the customers don't like having to, especially for the colorful shades, like using these tops and whatever. So we're going to change this to a PET plastic tube this year. And that's something that I just had to pivot with. I think other challenges that I faced were like right when COVID started, the lead times for things became a lot longer. And when you are a cash-based business where you're smaller, you really have to pay for everything up front. So getting into the cycle of instead of 8 to 12 weeks of having to pay for things in advance, now it became like 9 months on something. So you've got to buy things 9 months in advance and not make money on that SKU for like 9 months.
And the trend is changing in 9 months.
And that's changing. So we formulate like years in advance, but like it made that really hard. So that was another learning curve that I had to go through. And then I think just being a business owner, like you have to learn with dealing with different, as your team grows, dealing with different types of personalities and keeping everyone on the same track. Like I think that is challenging too. And then also making time to like answer everyone's questions, but also get through the high level amount of work that you're doing. You got to kind of figure out that balance too. So it's just, there's lots of things.
So what advice do you have to impart then, or any, like, it can be a couple of pieces of advice do you have to impart for new, I used to say young entrepreneurs, and I'm like, you can be an entrepreneur at any age.
At any age, yeah.
Young. I don't need to describe, I'm not like an ageist. So for new entrepreneurs, what's your advice for new entrepreneurs, but specifically in the skincare industry?
But you could also say young in your journey, right? Because you are young in your journey, yeah. But for new entrepreneurs, I think the first thing would be figure out what you're really good at, and then figure out your weaknesses and spend some time getting to be a little bit better at the weaknesses, because we gravitate towards doing things that we're good at. And I think when you don't have the capacity, bandwidth, monetary compensation to bring people in to do the things you're not good at right away, you're going to be doing those. So spend time learning the things that you're not great at, because the good things are going to come naturally. So that would be the first piece of advice. And then when you are able to invest in it, I think the most important thing, at least for me, was getting a PR team. So that was the first major investment I made with the brand. I didn't go with a full company. I went with a single person in the beginning. But I think having someone else like pitch your brand out is really important.
Can we talk about why?
Why? Because, I think a lot of people want immediate returns on things like press or celebrity or whatever it is, but you have to continually invest in that in order to get it back. And so I knew that my platform would help me sell the business, but then I also knew that like getting the word out, like word of mouth is so important, or reading about it is so important. So next two investments I made were influencer gifting, which we did in-house, reaching out to people via DM, and getting someone to pitch out our brand to the press, because I thought that kind of trifecta. And then when something would hit, like when a Chrissy Teigen was able to hit, then we'd have someone there ready to pitch it out to everyone. So that's why I made that investment. Other people might disagree. The next thing that I made was getting a part-time, like jack of all assistant to help me with everything.
So
and then
clutch.
Yeah, it's really important, because there's things that you just like can't be doing all the time. So it's really important to have that.
I have 3 kids, Allison, and I
Oh my
always
God.
yeah.
Wow.
I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 16-month-old baby. And I ask the 2 older ones, like when they're all like on me, I'm like, how many mommies is mommy? They're like, 1 mommy. I'm like, exactly. We're just one person. Like you need to be okay. I think that this is like a testament to also like releasing a sense of control, right? Especially when you're a business owner or parent or whatever, like releasing a sense of control and outsourcing some tasks, being like able to outsource some tasks.
That's really hard to people don't warn you how hard it is to delegate your own business. I think when you're working for someone else, it's a lot easier, because you're like, it's not yours. So you still care, of course. Like I cared so much about every job I've ever had, but it was less personal. So I'd be like, yeah, do that. But I think as you start hiring more people, it is hard to like relinquish that control, and being able to trust people is really difficult, because this is literally your living baby. So just like it's hard to, I'm sure, trust people with your kids at first, like babysitters or whatnot, it's the same thing. So that is also another piece of advice, like be able to figure out what you're comfortable delegating, and then delegate that so you can focus on other things.
Well, I think that you have given us a lot today. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with you. You're a
Me too.
light. I mean, like, you're so confident in like what you're doing. And I think that like we can all, like, I want to just like bottle whatever you're drinking up and I want to be able to sell it to people. So hopefully we've done that in some capacity today for the listeners, because like,
Oh,
I just think it's really important for people to know that they can do things that they want to do. Like if they have an idea, to like be able to have the confidence to go and pursue it. And there's like, even when we talk about pivoting in your business, like how you pivoted in your life and your career, right? And you're like, okay, well, this ain't it. This ain't it. We're going to move in a different direction. It doesn't even have to be like a bad, like a bad thing. Like, oh, I'm so mad, I'm not going to do this anymore. You could just like, you're allowed to change your mind in life. You're allowed to be like, oh, I want to do something different. You know, I think like the generations, Allison, that came before us were very like, have this job and you keep this job until you retire, and then you retire and that's it.
like 50 years. People were like, yeah, it's crazy.
Right. Like our world, like people, like younger people, like people coming out of college, people who are not going to college even, they're like, I got a 10-year plan, man. Like, and I remember thinking that to myself. I used to be a teacher and I'm like, I got a 10-year plan. I'm going to do this for 10 years and then I want to do something different. I want to do something
Yeah.
different.
You know what? I do think it keeps you young too. Like I think a lot of my friends who've stayed in the same career, while they're, doing really well, they're killing it. They're really high up. They're at my age now. They're like VPs or even like presidents at this point, or partners. Because I'm going to be 37 this year, so I'm not like a spring chicken
Me
anymore.
too.
I'm not old. Oh, we're twins.
Hey.
And so with that though, it's like I feel like it's kept me really young and youthful, and almost like looking younger and feeling younger and acting younger, because I did have to be a student all over again. I had to start again from the ground up. And while I'm maybe not as high level, I mean, yes, I'm the CEO of my business, but like, I would probably be in a different place if I hadn't changed careers. I'm so grateful for it, because I do think that like there's this youthfulness that you get to have when you have to start over, when you have to be young and force yourself to like live again and start and learn again and ask questions again. So I am grateful for it. And if you are listening and you want to make a career shift, I say do it. Like, but do it the smart way. Like, don't quit everything. Like, keep your 9 to 5 or whatever kind of brings you income, and then slowly let that side hustle kind of turn into something bigger for you.
Allison, thank you so much for your time today. You are amazing. It was like awesome to talk with you. I'm just so excited to share this with our listeners.
Thank you. Me too. This was great. You're such a great interviewer, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Sana Skin Studio. Be sure to use my code, TheNoGlow, for $25 off of your first facial at Sana when booking via sanaskinstudio.com. More than a skin studio, Sana is a movement towards healthier skin and self-love. Thank you so much for listening to The Know. If you loved this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. Words are so powerful, and someone may need to hear what we covered today. And if you really loved this episode, please take a moment to rate the show and leave a review. Your comments are so important and valued, and they give other listeners insight on what to expect on The Know. You can connect with me personally via Instagram at Nikki Spo and The Know with Nikki Spo. My hope for you today is that you are fearless in looking inward so that you can be your highest, most authentic self and go after the life of your dreams.